Hi, this is Anders Engberg from the mighty Sorcerer, and you're listening to Metal Bloodshed with DJ Vampire on Metal Messiah Radio. Keep the doom rockin'.
Hi Anders, thank you very much for accepting this interview and welcome to the Metal Bloodshed with DJ Vampire on Metal Messiah Radio.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Vampire.
Anders, I must congratulate you for such an amazing, long and awesome career and over 15 albums recorded with different band and side projects you belong to and still those yet to come.
I can tell you there's been a long road and all, as you said, 15 albums recorded, much more demos and stuff. And I started really early when I was like 15, 16 with the garage bands in my neighborhood where I lived and progressed. And the first real recording I did was around 88 with the Sorcerer actually. And I did some demo tapes before that, but nothing serious like this. It feels great.
Do you feel you have accomplished all your dreams? Or there are still a lot you want to achieve in the business?
I don't really know if I have any goals left. Maybe making that ultimate album. I don't know. I think both my latest albums with the 220 volts and Sorcerer are really, really good. I'm very happy with the result and how my voice sounds on those. So nothing more to say. I just wish that we were a bit more successful than we are. And my hopes are really high for Sorcerer now, doing a comeback after 27 years. So that's going to be fun.
After being in different garage bands in your early stage of your career and has formed Sorcerer in the late 80s, you was in bands like Twilight, Lion Shear, exTherion, Book of Reflection, and still are with bands like Sorcerer, Section E, Dreamfall, Speaking to Stones. You was a very active and busy man, Anders. How do you do to handle all these bands and still be with your family?
Well, it's been a lot of years coming, up till now. I've made a lot of albums, as you told before. I don't know. It's hard to stay busy and focused when you got all these other things going on in your life, with kids, family, work. It's not that I can live in a golden mansion and just counting all the cash. That's not the reality today. The record company and the record industry has been changing during the years and going from a stage where the record company put up all the money for the recordings in these big studios up until now when anyone can record an album at home practically. It's just a matter of knowledge and of course some money to buy a good microphone or whatever, but it's so much easier today, and that's taken a toll on the industry. I think not all of it is a good thing. I think with the media today, when people are bombarded by all these impressions and music and media, it's hard to stand out from that. But it's also a good thing because someone that didn't have the right connections perhaps could also do a recording of an album and publish it by himself on the internet or whatever. So that's a good thing. To go back to what you asked me about my family and stuff like that, it's been sometimes hard to be away for long periods of time touring, and I felt that after my second son was born I wanted to stay home, and I had toured a lot with exTherion at that point and wanted to take a time out from touring. And I had some questions about doing some projects, and I contacted my good friend Conny Velén, who's also a co-writer of the lyrics on the new Sorcerer, and we built a studio next to my home just for vocal recordings. And we did a lot of albums during this period up till now, actually a couple of years ago. The last thing I did was Speaking to Stones.
Since you were and still are in bands from Denmark, Twilight and Selection A, and Speaking to Stone from the US, did you live in these countries, or you just meet up with the bands when needed for recording or touring?
The recordings were made with some of the people I've never met, actually. I got an email from some promoter or an email from some guitar player, or, they contacted me through friends or Facebook or whatever and asked me if I wanted to do vocals on their stuff, and it suited me fine at that time because, as I told you before, I needed needed a break from the touring and the rehearsal rooms and everything that goes on, in a band. I didn't have the fire, the glow for that anymore. I still wanted to do something and I wanted to create stuff, but not in the context of a band. So being a session musician suited me just fine. So to answer your question, I rarely met the people that I played in or recorded with during this time. They just sent me the files. I made the chorus and the lyric in the studio and then sent my files back to be recorded, mixed somewhere else. That's how it was done. So yeah, most of the bands was just projects, actually.
SORCERER was formed in Stockholm, Sweden in 1988 by Johnny Hagel from Tiamat, Sundown, Lithium, and Tommy Karlsson and Peter Furulid. The singer Anders Engberg from Lionshare, exTherion, and 2020 Vault joined them together with a second guitarist, Mats Liedholm, in 1989, and SORCERER was one of the very early bands to champion what is now known as epic doom metal. Besides genre pioneers Candlemass, groups like Solitude Eternus, While Heaven Wept were among a few groups around representing this style of metal. How is it to be tagged as pioneer of the epic doom metal?
Oh, well, I don't know about being a pioneer. It didn't felt like that when we recorded the first demo. It just was something different. It sounded Black Sabbath-ish, and that was the kind of music I liked. I always liked Ronnie James Dio's lyrical, stuff, dragons and dungeons and stuff like that, and the fantasy side of Ronnie James Dio. And for me, it was more a Black Sabbath band than, wanted to sound like Black Sabbath than a doom metal band. It was something new for me. I came from an AOR environment with melodic heavy metal, hard rock, so that was different. But I don't know. Yeah, maybe we were pioneers. I don't know. It was a short period, a couple of years, and then we disbanded, so you never really could relate to what we did, actually.
And have you shared stage with your compatriots Candlemass and the Americans Solitude Eternus and While Heaven Wept?
I'm afraid we haven't been on stage with Candlemass or some of those icons. We joined the stage with Ghost and Solitude Eternus when we played in Hammer of Doom, I think, and that was cool. It was before Ghost even was known, actually. They played before us earlier, so I had the chance to see them, and I thought they were pretty cool, actually.
SORCERER recorded their first demo anno 1503, which sold more than 1,500 copies, and the band played 2 shows in Stockholm in 1989. 1,500 copies was sold over a period of how long, Anders?
Yeah, well, the first demo tape that we sold in like 1,500 copies, that was sold during a quite short period of time. At that point, there was no internet, there was no communication between countries like that. It was some fan signs that wrote about us, and we sent them tapes, and the word spread underground, and that's where we got the cult status. Those early cassettes, they show another time period, really, about technical stuff has been so much forwarded, so I really can't tell in how many months or how many days they sold out, but say 1,500 copies during maybe a year. I don't know, really.
The first show was together with legendary Swedish doom band Count Raven, and later in the year you also entered the stage at the festival with bands like Entombed, Carnage, exTherion, Mesro, among others. In 1992 you recorded your second demo, which showcase a more mature sound and a higher level musicianship. Both demos were very well received by the metal press all over the world, and the review were amazing. Johnny Hagel left the band later in 1992 to join Tiamat, and SORCERER disbanded shortly after this, and the members went their separate ways. Why didn't you and the rest of the band decided to replace Johnny with a new bassist player and continue with the band instead of disbanding it?
Well, after we've done the second demo, I played in another band, and the drummer played also in other bands, and we struggled to keep the band together. But when Johnny got the call from Tiamat, I mean, there was no doubt where he was going. So we decided to disband the band at that point. We stayed very good friends. Johnny and me, we've been friends for ages now, and talked about Sorcerer many times, and the rest of the people that was involved in those demo tapes during that period. It was funny. We recorded that demo in a small studio called Studio Sexton, 16-channel studio, and it's amazing how far it has come after that recording. I would never have believed it at that point. I was proud of the second one, 92 demo. Sounded much more in my vein than the first one, but that's how it goes. We never thought of looking for another bass player or anything. Johnny is the brains of the band.
15 years later, in 2010, Johnny Hagel was contracted by Oliver Weisenheimer of the Hammer of Doom Festival in Germany and was offered a spot. And that was when you and Johnny decided to put a band together, made up of friends for this one show, more than 20 years later from the first demo release. So joining you on stage was Kristian Niemann on guitars from exTherion and Demonoid, Ola Englund on guitars from Feared, The Haunted, 6 Feet Under, and drummer Robert Iversen. The band plays a set of classic tracks such as Born with Fear, Queen in Black, Northern Seas, and The Sorcerer, amongst others. The show was a big success with the crowd singing along to every song. Anders, how did the band feel to be back on stage after 15 years after Sorcerer was after a slot by Oliver Weinshammer for only one show at the Hammer of Doom Festival in 2010, and especially when the crowd sang along your classic tunes?
Well, I can tell you that we doubted doing the show. We hesitated, and I think Johnny called me one day at work and said that he was approached by a Hammer of Doom and wanted us to play, and I felt I'm in the middle of work here, and we haven't rehearsed, we haven't got nothing, and I just did my projects and my session music and didn't tour or anything. We didn't have any band, just Johnny and me left. The other guys, we don't know where they were. So I said no, I don't want to do it. So he said, no, that was what I thought too, and we hung up, and I thought about it during the day, and the next day I called him up and I said, hey Johnny, if we're gonna do this, we gotta get a good spot and everything gotta be paid, and if they can fix that, we can go down and just have fun, So we put together a band of friends, actually. It was Ola Englund, Kristian Niemann from exTherion, Johnny and I, and the drummer that I know from before, Robert Iversen, and we rehearsed a couple of times, not more, and went down there, and we went on stage, and it was amazing. From the first chord, people sang along in every line. They knew the words better than I did, actually. We just looked at each other on stage there, and I had goosebumps all over, and I think the other guys just were amazed. A real jaw-dropper, actually, and the praises we got for the show from, audience traveling from Greece all over to see us doing this show, it really made a big, huge impact on every one of us. A fantastic experience.
In 2011, John Perez of Solitude Eternus released the demos again, now mastered, and feature a song that never had been released on the CD before. How was the release of your self-titled album in 2011 through Brain Ticket label and working with John Perez of Solitude Eternus again?
I've never been involved in the business side of Sorcerer. It's only Johnny being the CEO for that, so to speak. I have no relations personally with John Perez. It's just nice that he feels that 2 demos was good to be released again. As I said before, I've never thought about it. Johnny made the deals, and that's it. It was great though. It built a foundation that we stand on today. So, and live, we play a lot of songs still live.
The same year, the band played another gig at the Up the Hammers Festival in Athens, Greece, another massive success, and the thought of putting together a new album started to take form. Who was responsible of Sorcerer performance at the Hammer Festival in Greece? And did the whole band agree immediately on becoming a full-time band again?
The show in Greece, I don't really know who was responsible for getting us there, but as usual, Johnny, he had the website, and I think we were approached there by the promoter of the Athens show, Up the Hammers, and at that point, time had gone since the first show, and we had started to discuss if we were going to do a show or to do a new album or not. And so that discussion was there, and when we got the answer for the question for Athens, and we said, yeah, hell, we go. If it's going to be somewhere near Hammer of Doom. I mean, it's going to be a killer. So we just went down and played, and it was a great show. Smaller venue, but the crowd was awesome. We had a really, really good time.
The band started to work on a new album right after Ola Englund left the band to join 6 Feet Under and was replaced by Peter Hallgren of Rock and 220 Volt. How did you get in touch with Peter Hallgren?
Well, Peter was a good friend of Kristian Niemann and was approached by him. And he fitted right in to the band, and the guitar playing he's done on the album is amazing. I think they are two different styles of solo guitarists. I mean, Kristian is very technical and high-end musician, and Peter is also very technical, but more he has his roots more in the 80s music, and you can hear clear difference in the solos on the album. I think it's just amazing. So hopefully if we can do another album, Peter will be more involved in the songwriting, because most of the songs were written when he got in the band, but he's been there arranging and coming up with ideas for guitar arrangements and stuff like that. So he's a real asset and a really nice guy.
With years of professional experience and top-class instrumental abilities among its band members, the Sorcerer of the 21st century is determined to deliver epic doom metal for many years to come, on record and stages all around the world. Metal Blade Record announced last January the signing of Swedish epic doom metal Sorcerer. Great achieve a record deal with Metal Blade Record. Anders, how was the excitement among the band members and how you managed to nail this awesome deal?
Yeah, of course, we were approached by several record labels, actually. We had no problem getting interest from the demos that we've done, and weren't actually demos. It was the final tracking, but not the final mix. Yeah, we got many interested companies, but as soon as Metal Blade approached us with their history and their professionality and also a worldwide deal hanging in front of us, so there was no doubt about it when we saw the details in the contract, and it was all good. And now in retrospective, when we look back on what they've done for us so far, they've been amazing. So Metal Blade did a really good job with us in this album, and I hope we can continue doing more. We have options of two more albums, and we'll see how it goes. There are plenty more ideas of doom anthems in the back pocket, because we've had like 20 years coming up with ideas.
The band released its new album, In the Shadows of the Inverted Cross, on March 20 on CD, vinyl, and digitally. How was the release of In the Shadow of the Inverted Cross in Europe and worldwide, and how was the release party?
Yeah, well, the release has been amazing. I mean, the views we've had, both on the video that came out earlier and the songs that we dropped before the release, were very good, accepted by the audiences, and now the critics, the views are phenomenal, no doubt about it. It's like 9, 10s everywhere, and we really hope that this album will take us to another level, not only, as musicians or creating music, but also getting a larger audience. Yeah, truly amazing. A worldwide deal does it make it easier to, reach out. We haven't actually had a release party yet. It's now. We have it on a local pub in Stockholm here, so if you're passing by, come on and have a beer with you and listen to some doom.
Sorcerer's stories are led by soaring vocals of Anders, who is singer of a very high caliber. In the Shadows of Inverted Cross is not a pure doom album, as Sorcerers include large doses of pure heavy metal in their song, most notably on Exorcise the Demon and The Gates of Hell, which is straight up heavy metal banger. In the Shadows of the Inverted Cross is a great album which will be explored all around the metal scene. In the shadow of the inverted cross, track listening is as follows: The Dark Tower of Sorcerer, Sumerian Script, Lake of the Souls, Exorcise the Demon, In the Shadows of the Inverted Cross, Prayers for a King, The Gates of Hell, Pagans. Could you please give us some details on this new album?
Yeah, well, the details of the new album. It's an 8-piece on the digital copy, and if you buy the vinyl, there's an extra song called Legion of the Serpent on that one. We actually recorded music for 1 hour and 20 minutes, and we have some songs up our sleeve for maybe another release. Who knows? Yeah, and well, the details, there's a variety of songs, some really heavy, doomy, gloomy tunes, and some more up-tempo stuff, because I think you need the dynamic in an album. You can't play all 8 songs, an hour of music in the same tempo, or you need the dynamics where it's slow and where it's heavy and where it's fast. Even if real people that listen to real doom doesn't think this is doom. I mean, it's not us that's been labeling us, but I think calling us an epic doom band is correct. And I don't know about to say on details. It's good songs with a lot of revolving around fantasy stuff, not so much taken out of real life.
There's a limited to 200 pieces LP version of In the Shadows of the Inverted Cross of Sorcerer appears on a beige vinyl and contains the bonus track Legion of the Serpent. Why release a bonus track Legion of the Serpent only on vinyl?
Well, why we had an extra Legion of the Serpent on the vinyl is because we wanted to make the vinyl something extra. There's also a surprise inside the vinyl. It's a double vinyl album, actually, so 2 discs and also a surprise inside. And we wanted to give, something extra for people who are really hardcore fans, and the best thing to do that today is to make a vinyl.
The process of putting all bits and pieces together and making it ready for mix and mastering was work of drummer Robert Iversen, also a very fine recorder engineer who was acting as the spider in the recording. Robert is a very talented multi-musician and sound engineer, and by now I guess he needs a long vacation. Anders, you really kept Robert very occupied the new album, didn't you?
Robert had his hands full. We recorded different instruments and vocals in different studios. The drums was recorded in Robert's own studio, and I recorded my vocals in my studio, and the guitar players recorded different places, and the bass was recorded also. So somebody had to collect all these files and put them together, and Robert did a great job doing this, and has a big part in the process of the album coming, to life. Hail to him for that.
The album was mastered by Jens Borgen, who also worked with Opeth, Imanamart, Devon Townsend. Can't ask for more than Jens Borgen for the mastering. Tell us, Anders, your comment on your work together with Jens Borgen and the end result of the album.
Well, Jens Bogren was approached by Robert, actually. They knew each other from before. I don't really know exactly how he know him, but, Robert works in the music industry as a technician, so somehow they met up or changed numbers or whatever, and when we found out that Jens Bogren was in the loop, we just said, yes, that's the one we want to go with, and that's it, really. He didn't have much input on the album. He just did his thing.
Last January, you released a video for the song The Dark Tower of Sorcerer. Will there gonna be more videos released for track like Sumerian Script and The Gates of Hell?
Well, right now we're not working on any video. At the moment, we're just focusing on getting the album out and doing our first show on the 22nd of May. So rehearsals is starting soon. soon, and we'll focus in on that right now. There will be probably another video. We don't know really when.
What's the plans of Sorcerer in promotion and support of the new album? Are the tours and festival already booked?
About doing shows, we have one show, as I told before, our so-called release show here in Stockholm on our home field, so to speak, but there are no other festivals or anything booked yet, and I think this year's festivals, maybe if there is a canceling or something, we can do a show, but I think it's too late this year, so we're gonna work towards the shows in the fall. Hammer of Doom, hopefully, and some other shows. But we're really looking forward to next year and doing the big festivals and stuff like that.
Question I ask everyone. How is the metal scene in your hometown of Stockholm and Sweden in general?
Yeah, well, the metal scene in Stockholm is both Sweden and Norway and Finland and Denmark are very good in terms of musicians, and musicianship. And there are a lot of bands that come from the north here and influences throughout Europe. I think the scene in Stockholm, it's well, it's okay. It could be better from my point of view, but we have places to play and places to go around town to play, so it's okay.
Anders, the microphone of Metal Messiah, it's all yours to invite all your friends and fans to support the bands and to buy your album and merchandises and to attend your concert all over the world.
So I want to thank you for having me on your show, and to the people out there, please buy the record, listen to the record, and you can get merchandise through truemetalmerch.com. truemetalmerch.com, and the album you can order online or wherever you are. It should be out everywhere. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Vampire. So keep the faith.
Thank you very much, Anders. Yes, in the meantime, like I always say, metal on. Bye-bye.
Doom on.